challenges that I face in my herd is that not all the horses need the same amount of feed or supplements. Yet the higher up horses will push off the lower horses from their feed, and the lower ones are usually the ones that need more. So I decided to go ahead and try a personalized bucket feeding system that I've seen some other horse friends use. And this is my video showing how I made the buckets and how the system's working for me. This is the barn door that I envision for the moment will become kind of a drive-through window for these horses at mealtime. And so now, instead of bringing the food out to them and feeding them in buckets, my hope is that they'll be able to come to the door, the window where I'm at. I'll be able to present them with their own food bucket, and then they can kind of wander around, do what they need to do to set the bucket down and eat. And when they're finished, they can come back to the window. I'll take the bucket off. That is going to be the beauty of the bucket feeding system. Also, the fact is I'll be able to give each horse what they actually need in their feed without worrying about Khaleesi, who is in charge of the herd, finishing her food and then chasing the other horses off of their food. I also don't have to then tie them or bring them in stalls. So this should make things easier and more streamlined and less stressful for everybody. But we're not quite there yet. So let's see how it goes as we get started with that today. This is what the bucket feeder looks like, finished product. This is a 2.5 gallon bucket. I just picked it up at Lowe's. Pretty simple. A 2 gallon or a 2.5 gallon are usually about right. I like how wide it is at the top. This is just a soft nylon rope. It's a little less, I think, in diameter than 1/2 inch. I would have liked 1/2 inch, but I couldn't find 1/2 inch without buying a lot of it. So I went ahead with this slightly smaller one, but it's soft. And I like the feel of it, and I can also change it out if I need to going forward. So it's a pretty simple project, and I will show you how I made this one. So the things that I'll need to make these is a 2.5 gallon bucket, picked up at the hardware store. I've got rope here, plenty, as much as I'll need. I have a Sharpie, which I'll use to make the holes in it. I'm using a butane torch. You can also use, if you have a gas stove, you can use that. It's going to heat up the nail that I'm going to use to make the hole. Here are scissors, which I just need to cut the rope, and pliers, which I'll hold the nail as I'm working with it. So the first thing is I don't want the bucket to have the metal handle anymore. So there's 2 ways you can get rid of the handle. They twist out, is you can cut the handle and then it'll easily twist out, but I found that if I just kind of twisted it enough, I was able to get that twist in it that would come out. There's one, and there's the other. So handle now out. Step 1. Next thing I'm going to do is decide where the rope's going to go. It makes it easy for me to just kind of go under where the handle was because I'll know that I'm on either side without having to do too much effort. So I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm just going to make a circle here to give me an idea. And I can go just a little bit smaller than the diameter of my rope that I'm guessing. And I can widen it as I need to. So right underneath here works pretty well, and I'll do the same on the other side. Right. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is, I think you could probably drill a hole, but I've had issues in trying to drill through plastic with a drill bit. So a suggestion was made to try to use a nail that is heated up to go through the plastic, and I think that that works pretty well. So I'll show you what that part looks like. So now in order to make the holes in here, I'm not going to use a drill bit. I considered it, but there was a suggestion, I think works pretty well, to actually use a nail heated up to melt through and create the opening for the rope. And it worked pretty well on the test one that I did. So that's why I have the butane torch. So I'm going to start off with a nail. It's a small kind of a finish nail. The smaller the nail, I think the better it works for this process. So I'm going to take that nail in my pliers so that I don't burn myself, and I can get the nail pretty hot. And I'm going to heat the nail with my torch. So I just spend a little time heating the nail up. See how hot I can get it. And when I've gotten it pretty hot, I'm able to come over here and kind of draw along the outside of the circle. You can see how that's melting the shape of that circle hole that I want to put my rope through. Kind of went through there. There we go. And it's starting to not work as well, so I'm going to go ahead and heat it up again. It does have some stuff on it now, but I found that that burns off pretty well. So I'll go ahead and heat my oil again. And while it's hot, I'll take it back and see if I can finish off my circle. There we go. Nice. So you can see I have a hole now in my bucket where I would put the rope through. I'll just kind of clean up the edges a little bit there. And then when it cools down a moment, I'll see how close I am for my rope getting through. I can always make it a little larger. And I can also reach in and just while it's warm, I kind of just pick a little bit at the rough edge and smooth it out. That way if she kind of bumps her nose into it, there'll be a rope there, but it's nice to just have it a little smoother. So I'll set my nail down over here. And I'll take my rope and let's see if it fits through, and it does, and that's fine. I don't really need a big hole. I just want to make sure my rope will fit through it. I'm going to make a knot on the other side so it doesn't have to be exact, but it's a pretty good shape. I'll probably just clean that off a little bit, make sure it's not too rough, and then I'll go ahead and do the same on the other side. So I have now 2 holes, one on each side. And I also found if you just kind of run the torch just really lightly over the hole, kind of like that for a moment, the edges kind of just shrink back and get a little bit rounded. So that'll make it nice, it's in a nice surface there. So the next thing I'm gonna do is take my rope and I'm gonna run it through the inside of the bucket. So that the knot is on the outside because the horse's head's going to be on the inside. So I'll run it through this hole and I'm going to go ahead and make a knot on this side. I just kind of have lots of rope, so I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. And pull it pretty tight. Finishes up there, nice against the bucket wall. Okay, so there's one side. Pull it tight just to make sure the knot's in good shape. And for the moment, until I actually measure this on the horse, I'm gonna take Khaleesi's length and just make sure that I have plenty for the horse. So I'm gonna just extend this out to make sure that whatever I need tomorrow, I've got plenty of rope. I'm sure I have enough left. So I'll just give it a cut. And kind of right away, I'm gonna burn the end of this before it gets away from me because this rope really gets so that it's kind of coming apart. Grab my pliers so I can kind of twist it together. I'm going to just burn my edge a little bit. There we go. That'll just help me get it through. So I'll put the rope through this other hole. Oops. There we go. To the other side. Excellent. All right, and I'm gonna leave it. I'll make kind of just a loose knot for tonight, so that when I'm out there tomorrow, I can take my magic marker, my Sharpie, and I can mark the spot where the horse's head needs to be before I finish this off and put the knot exactly where I want it. But that should be plenty of rope. And then the last thing I'll do is take my wide Sharpie and I'll write down that this is Hope's bucket. Each of the ropes will be custom to the horse to make sure that their head is in a good position to be able to eat. And so I want to make sure that each of my buckets is customized to my horse's name, or however you might do that. So there's Hope's bucket. And the next step will be how we actually work with them with the horses. Wyoming's bucket, there's a tiny little bit of food on the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I just want to try to get the length correct. So I'm going to ask her, I'm going to start with the rope, which is super long. And I'm able to set the bucket down in order to get her nose stuck to the bottom of it. So let's put it about that. And we'll release her. I've got a mark on it. Then I'll make the knot and tie this one off. Well, here we go with our first bucket feeding. So this is the first time we've ever tried it. I'm going to set it down. And I'm gonna let her put her head in. Oops. Let's try again. So she can put her head in. Oops. Let's try again. Yes, and there's Khaleesi. First time bucket feeding. Let's go ahead and try Wyoming. There's your food. Let her go ahead and put her head in. Around the ears. So we want the buckets to not be able to have their head come completely out of them, but they should need to set them down to put their nose deep enough to get the food out. So Wyoming's is still too long. We'll work on that. So when they're finished, we'll be able to help them out by getting their buckets off. Are you finished? Good girl. She looks done, so I'm going to ask her if she'll lower her head. She'll put her head down for me. I'll take her bucket off. I think she's kind of fascinated by it. She's not ready yet. Wyoming, she's still figuring hers out. You done? I'll take her bucket off, and she's finished. Good job. There we go. First bucket feeding for Khaleesi. So eventually, what I'd like them to get into the habit of is they can come to the barn, they'll get their buckets put on, and then they'll come back and we'll take them off. Well, it looks like we've got a line of customers out the window. Let's see if we can get this process started. This is Khaleesi's bucket. And I'm going to set it down and let her put her nose in. It's okay. There's one. Let's see if we can get Wyoming in here. Wyoming. Let's move a little bit out here. You see Khaleesi starting to eat hers. Two. Now we have Hope coming in the background. We have Khaleesi eating. Now we have Hope. There she is. Looks like Khaleesi's about to join us. See that? Good job, girls. Right. Here's the drive-through window. Go ahead. There you go. Good girl. All right, now you're gonna have to step aside for the next one. Good girl. Come in, Wyoming. Come on up. All right, we're gonna have to make the line a little more open here. Good girl. All right, got one more. All right, I'll come to you. Take takeout. There you go. All right, we've got everyone eating. I hope you give this a try if you're having any issues with your feeding program, especially horses with different needs or a bossy horse that'll push others off the feed. This can be a really easy way to solve that problem, and I think once the horses get used to it, it works really well for them as well. If you have any questions about this, then you can add it to the comments below or get in touch with me through hopehorsemanship.com. Have a great day.